I knew I was close to losing my father that day, but I didn't know just how close I actually was. Hello, this is a long awaited video. Again, I am back and I look like I've been on vacation or I'm on vacation or something. I wish I'm not. I still have to work. You guys see the background. You guys know what time it is. But I will say I am loving this tan on me. It's giving. Anyway, let's get into this video. So if you don't follow me on TikTok, so cue the intro. So guys, okay. So if you follow me on TikTok, and at this point, if you're not following me on TikTok, then what are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? Like, because TikTok is really the format of my content on YouTube. So actually, the other day I was on FaceTime, I was on WhatsApp, talking to my aunt. She still lives in Haiti. And every time I speak to her, I find something new about the family. I learn something new every single time. And this time, I learned that one time that my father was in the hospital, it wasn't so coincidental. Let's get into the story time. So I'm going to tell you guys the story from my perspective, and then I'm going to tell you guys the story from my aunt's perspective. And I literally learned this perspective a couple of days ago. So boom. So my father was out here. I didn't know what my father was up to. My father has always been a promiscuous man my whole entire life, okay? He always had bitches galore, okay? Even when my mother was around. So when my mother wasn't around anymore, they were just kind of like, my dad was ran through, okay? No self-respect, ran through. And so, you know, he's doing his little thing. And from my perspective, sometimes he would have like, you know, his girls come over and they would stay. And, you know, it would last. And sometimes it just wouldn't last, okay? I learned never to get attached to anybody personally. But, you know, I always allowed my daddy the freedom to do whatever he wanted to do without passing any real judgment to him. It did get to a point where I did start judging because I was like, okay, now what are you doing? Like, I don't get the vision anymore. But I really allowed my daddy to do him without, you know, much judgment. So boom, one day a 17-year-old me in high school, I was a senior in high school at that point, and this happened. Did this happen around the fall or winter? I can't quite remember if it was fall. From my perspective, I went to school one day and we had pajama day that day. So I'm like mad excited. The day before, my father was fine. And at that point, I was talking to some girl. And I remember, no, I wasn't talking to her. But I remember I had a crush on some girl. And I remember just being like really excited about her. Was this my senior year? No, this was my fucking senior year. Because at that point, I was talking to that girl. I really was talking to her. Because I remember the night before my father got in the hospital, I was on the phone with her and I was in the shower. Yeah, so no, this was my senior year. So yeah, I was 17, turning 18. So, or maybe already 18. So we had pajama day at school. So we pull up. Yep, this was senior trip. This was senior activities. Yep, I was a senior in high school. Pajama day, I get my pajamas on and I'm really excited. Like I went to buy a pair of pajamas, put my pajamas on, get to school, and you know, I had a great day at school with my friends. It wasn't a regular day, like I said, it was pajama day. So we really just got to chill, lounge around in school, take pictures, and you know, it's our last year, make memories. So after school, I usually had dance rehearsal. So my dance rehearsal started at 3 p.m. and ended around 6 p.m. So after pajama day, of course, I'm going to dance rehearsal. I never missed a day. It wasn't that type of program. Like you just don't go if you don't want to go. Like you had to. I was a committed dancer. So I had after school. But school ended at 2:20. And at 2:20, they called the school telling me that my father was in the hospital. And for me, that's odd. And mind you guys, telling this story, it's weird because even though me and my father currently were no contact, this is still really difficult for me to talk about because I knew I was close to losing my father that day, but I didn't know just how close I actually was. And it's absolutely heartbreaking to like even tell the story. And I know it's like for entertainment purposes, but it's still a real story. So I'm at school, I get a phone call and they tell me that my father was admitted to the hospital. So I leave dance and I rush to the hospital And my father wasn't staying at Kings County. He was staying in some hospital in East New York. So I go to the hospital, and there's like mad sick people. And mind you, I'm traumatized from hospitals from my mom already because my mom passed away. So going to the hospital that day, it was like I'm already experiencing so many different feelings and emotions. But when I get there, they're telling me, like, my dad, he looked bad. He literally looked like he was on his deathbed. I didn't know what was happening to him. Like, I don't know what happened. He was literally fine last night. I don't know where this came from. But, you know, I'm staying positive. Like, maybe it's a cold or maybe it's the flu because he was coughing. So, you know, the doctors, he was in the waiting area, and he was in the waiting area for a long time. He couldn't eat, and he was in excruciating pain, and he was having a lot of trouble breathing. So after, like, I want to say a good 10 hours of him being in the holding room, they finally gave him a room. So in that room, they're like running tests, and they're really not able to find out what's wrong with my father. And so they told me and my sister, you know, basically go home that day, and that basically to come back tomorrow because they're gonna have to keep him overnight, and that it's good that he came to the hospital that day because he would have died had he, you know, slept home. So they were trying to find a diagnosis for him. They couldn't find anything. They were relating his symptoms to pneumonia. However, he didn't show full signs of pneumonia. However, a majority of his symptoms, like him having difficulty breathing, him feeling like there's water in his lungs, and all of that. So they were like, well, just say it's pneumonia. We can't really give him medicine for pneumonia because if he doesn't have it, that could be dangerous for him. So the best thing that they could do at that moment was give him pain meds and hook him up to a breathing machine to help him breathe. So my dad I left him in a breathing machine, and then also came back to him the following day. And this was, let me just say, this ruined a large chunk. This ruined like a month for me, because at this point, having to go back to the hospital, at this point, I'm like really, really worried. And I remember at some point, like, I just wanted my dad to come home. Like, I know, like I said, like, we didn't always get along well. I just wanted my father to come home. I had lost one parent. I didn't have it in me to go through the loss of another one. So, yeah, came back to the hospital the following day, and it didn't seem like his condition was getting any better, but it also didn't seem like his condition was getting any worse. My father was in that hospital, and I was literally holding on by prayers, more thoughts for dear life, because that's really all I had. And I just remember just like being scared of the alternative, like, and you know, your mind can really go there, especially when you've already experienced death in your family before. Like, it's really not easy. So fast forward to, say my father was admitted to the hospital on a Monday. He was released the following Monday. And I remember just like when my father came home, I was so relieved. Like, I really felt like God had answered my prayers, and that I wasn't ready to figure it out on my own, because I didn't have a job. Like I need my father to at least take care of me, bro. So, you know, when my father was released from the hospital on Monday, I remember that was like the first day. Like, I went to go see him the day that he was released, because he was getting released a little bit later. I went to go see him, and I remember sitting in the hospital bed eating hospital food with my dad, and it absolutely broke my heart. Like, it broke my heart seeing my father like that. And he got released a little bit later that day, but I went to go see him before he got released. And I remember the doctors coming in, because the whole week, you guys, it was literally Monday, he's bad. Tuesday, he's still bad. Wednesday, he's terrible. Thursday, he's doing a little bit better than the day before. Friday, he's doing bad. Saturday, he's doing bad. Sunday, he can breathe again. Sunday evening, he's recovering really well. Monday, you can be released, because he slept without the breathing machine the day before, and he was fine, and he's not showing any more symptoms. So they just kept him an extra day, a little bit longer that Monday that he was released, just to see, you know, if anything was going to happen, because it just seemed like he made a recovery out of nowhere. So I came home that day, and I remember like just seeing my father. He's back to his normal self. Like it wasn't even like he came back home from the hospital and he was different and he was trying to like recover. No, like the man just got back home and took off kicking. Like if he could have gone to work that Monday, he would have went to work. Because literally the following Tuesday, my father was back at work and, you know, it was cool again. So that was my perspective as this 18-year-old, just watching my father go through this. And like I said, I just, like the doctors had told me, I just chucked it up to it being pneumonia and that they treated my father and that, you know, this was a miracle and that it wasn't that serious after all. Phew, moved on with my life. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. 7 years later, I'm on the phone with my aunt, who is my father's sister. Now, my aunt is a devoted God lover. When I tell you my aunt loves God, my aunt tells me all the time that I have to fix my relationship with God and that, like, I can't stress it how much she with God. Like, I really can't. And she's a very prayerful woman. Like, she prays, okay? And my aunt, for some reason, out of all the women in my family, whenever my aunt prays, that feels like the most effective prayer. Because my aunt single-handedly, her prayers alone have kept my father out of so much trouble and so much bullshit. Literally, like, she is a powerful prayer. I'll give her that much. And come to find out, like, even with my life, like my personal life, the things that I go through, nothing bad ever really happens to me. And come to find out, not only am I divinely protected, you know, on the other side, because I lost my mother, my grandmother, but also, like, my aunt is out here praying for me. Like, every prayer she raises my name, my pictures, like, by the way, I love you, Tati. But anyway, so I'm on the phone with Tati, and at this point, my father done fell out with Tati. Keep that in mind. Like, they don't even talk anymore. But that's my bitch. I love Tati. So we're on the phone the other day, and she casually just tells me, she's like, you know, we're talking about my father. No, were we talking about my father? No, we were talking about something. And then she just says, yeah, kind of like that time those women try to kill your father. Yo, maybe I shouldn't have reacted. Yes. Okay, so my aunt and my father fell out. And I fell out with my dad. So we're just talking. And my aunt was like, yeah, like when those women tried to unalive your dad, when those women tried to kill your dad, maybe I shouldn't have overreacted as much as I did. Because your father called me on the phone crying, telling me, yo, lad, pray for me. You got to pray for me, man. That means pray for me, pray for me, pray for me. They're going to kill me. They're trying to kill me. So my aunt is telling me that's how my father called her while he was in the hospital. And I said, wait, when was this? She was like, girl, you were old enough to know. This didn't happen that long ago. This was like, what, like 2017? I said, wait a minute. That time my father was in the hospital, bedridden for like a week? She's like, yeah. What did you think happened to him? I said, I didn't know about two women. And she was like, now I'm going to give it to y'all from her perspective. My aunt is chilling in Haiti, minding her business, doing her thing. And at that point, her and my father, they had a pretty, you know, decent relationship. As decent as it can be. So, one day, my aunt's brother, so my uncle, gets a phone call from my father. Okay, boom. Let me give it to y'all from my dad's co-worker's perspective. The day that my father got admitted to the hospital, my father went to work. But once he got to work, it's like his health just significantly declined. The second he got to work, he started feeling faint. He can't support his body weight. He can't breathe. Like, he's just going through it, and he's coughing his lungs out like he's not doing good. So then that coworker was like, nah, bro, you got to go to the hospital. And my dad, you know, trying to tough it out. Even he couldn't tough it out after like 10 minutes. So he was like, yeah, his coworker literally had to drive him to the hospital. drove him to the hospital, and he left and went back to work. But when the coworker went back to work, the coworker is Haitian, and he had a good relationship with my father. So when my father came into work, after my father left last night for work perfectly fine, and he's coming in today that bad, that man knew something was up. Now, I don't know what it is that my father and them discussed on the way to the hospital that might have made the coworker make that call real quick, but that's what happened. That coworker had my father's brother's number, my uncle, and called my uncle and said, yo, somebody did something to your brother, and he, like, y'all gotta act fast, because I don't know how long he got. He's doing terrible out here. So then brother gets that news, and he wakes up. Now, mind you, my father got to work around 2 p.m. He went to the hospital. No, my father got to work around like 1 p.m. He got to the hospital by like 2:30, 2 something. And then the coworker, he went back to work his shift. And then he called my father to check up on him. After he dropped him off. Right before he's about to leave for his shift, which would have been around like 4 a.m. He calls my father, and my father picks up, and my father can barely even speak. My father doesn't even know his left from his right. My father is giving zombie vibes, basically. So the coworker got so concerned at that point that he was like, nah, this man was fine yesterday. Today he's talking like just dropped him off to the hospital. He's not getting any better. He's talking like a fucking zombie. So he calls my father's brother in Haiti and tells him that, yo, somebody's trying to do something to your brother. And at that point, keep in mind, it's 4 a.m. So he's lucky that my uncle actually picked up. So my uncle picked up, and when he heard that, he said, what? So he took off running. So he went straight to Lakukai Jab on the other side where my grandfather was staying. So he went to my grandfather, and he was like, yo, I just spoke to my brother's coworker in New York, and they trying to take your son. And it's not even like they're trying to take your son. They got your son. He's on his deathbed right now. So then my grandfather said, everybody's freaking out. So now this is when, at that point, my father had called my aunt. So now my aunt knows what's going on. My grandfather knows what's going on. My uncle knows what's going on. Now the entire family is onto what's going on. So now people are freaking the fuck out. People are crying, basically throwing a damn funeral for my dad already. I have no idea this was happening. Keep in mind. So they finally, my grandfather decides, okay, let's go to a bokor. So in my family, we have bokors in my family, or ugans, which would be like voodoo priests. So they decided to go to one of the most powerful voodoo priests that we have. And y'all, if you think I'm lying, I'm flying. And at this point, I am done convincing people how powerful voodoo is and what voodoo can actually fucking do. Now, I don't know how they do these things. I don't know the technicalities of these things. All I know is what happened, and I can only just deliver it to y'all. Cause I be reading some of y'all comments, and y'all be pissing me off, and it be coming off very much like y'all trying to discredit what I'm saying. And it's like, bro, I'm getting these stories in Creole, first of all, and my Creole is not as good as it should be. And I'm translating it to a whole nother language, and I'm giving it to y'all. And also understand that my aunt, for example, she's not a storyteller. So she's not literally sitting here breaking down the story like I'm doing to y'all. No. She's like brushing past stuff. She's not telling me a story. So everything, I have to ask her these questions so I can put together a story. So I don't know everything. I can only tell y'all what the fuck she told me. Ease on me now. So, boom. So basically they go to the most powerful Uga in my family, and basically they were able to find out exactly who did it, why they were doing it, and where they lived. So come to find out, my father was in these streets dating 2 cousins. Yes, he was dating 2 cousins. And so they found out about each other, and obviously a choice had to be made. Like, which one you gonna choose? You're gonna choose A or B. And my father went with B, and A was pissed because I got it all going on. I am the whole blinking market. Like, you know? So she was wondering why her basket wasn't chosen. why did you go with B? So then now cousin A and cousin B relationships start having friction in between, because you know that typically happens when a man gets in between. And now the cousin A is realizing, damn, I lost this man, and now my cousin, I'm losing her too. So like she decided to act, and she decided to act fast. So come to find out that one cousin A, was working voodoo on my father in New York, and decided that she alone was not powerful enough, and that she was gonna get her two brothers from Haiti, who are also Ougans, to do voodoo on my father. So when my father suddenly fell sick, he had about 3 people jumping on him on the spiritual side. And yeah, they went to the Boko, and the Boko told them exactly who did it, why they did it, and where they were. Keep that in mind. They told them where they were. I don't know why. Like in these TV shows, they really be telling us the truth, because locator spells are a real thing. It's just we don't do spells. We just mix shit together, and somehow they find out. I don't know, through dreams, through visions, they figure it out. So they find out where all of this was going on. But then they also tell my grandfather and my uncle that like your window of opportunity is basically closing, because his spirit is in between. Like he's about to cross over. So like he might die. Yeah. So at that point, they're freaking out, and they're like, okay, well, what do we need to reverse this? What can we do? Everybody got to come together. So they're like, okay, well, we need a shirt. We need something personal of his. And nobody in the family has that, because my father's been living in the States at that point for almost 10 years. So we don't have a fucking shirt of him. So like, what else do we need? So then they were like, yeah, if that's the case, like we're running out of time type shit. We got to do something, and we got to do our big one, and we got to figure this out like now. So they decided to go to the cemetery. Well, I don't know the actual process of any of this, who they summoned first, but all I know is what my aunt told me is that at the end, they winded up at the crossroads. They told me they had to go to a cemetery and do some stuff, and go to a specific spot and dance and catch a loa and do all of this. And then boom, they were sent to the crossroads, to where they summoned Baron Samedi. Now, if you don't know who Baron Samedi is, I believe he is the keeper of the dead. Now, I'm gonna Google this, and I'm gonna plaster it on the video. But I know that he rules over death, and he also sometimes rules over life. And Baron Samedi is also a loa that's very popular in my family. Baron Samedi, Urzeli, La Sirène, those are all lois that are very popular within my family. So I think I'm also forgetting one, because my uncle has a few lois alone. Yeah. So basically, they get to the crossroads, summon Baron Samedi, and Baron pops up and gives them a pigeon. So hands them this pigeon, and within this pigeon, only one person in the family remember, because at that point my grandmother had died, and only one person in the family remembered the date and the time that my father was born. So they called my aunt. My aunt picked up, and they told her to come over there. She went over there, and she knew exactly the date and the time that my father was born. And she said that they dressed the pigeon. I don't know what that means. Yo habillé pigeon. I don't know what that means, but I'm guessing that means that they enchanted this pigeon with information regarding to my father. And they said that they entered all of this information through the pigeon's beak. So they entered his date of birth. Like, I don't even know what the fuck else they requested, but they put all the information through the pigeon's beak, and Baron gave this pigeon to my grandfather, and he set the pigeon free. And the pigeon flew from Port-au-Prince, Haiti, all the way to Brooklyn, New York. I don't know why this blows my mind so much, because I know pigeons fly, but I didn't know they flew that long distance. And that bird got there pretty darn fast. So the bird got there, and basically the bird was sent there to extract the disease out of my father. So the bird would then fly, and fair enough, I remember that every time I went to go visit my father, there was a pigeon on his window. And I remember that pigeon came rather later, right? And it pigeon came during his recovery, a little bit before his recovery. So I remember that because he was on a pretty high floor in the hospital. So I remember it's just weird that he just has a pigeon sitting right there. I went to the bathroom, came back, the pigeon is there. But, at the time, didn't think anything of it. 7 years later, I'm finding out that was a sent pigeon. They sent that pigeon to Brooklyn. So that pigeon was there to extract the disease out of my father. And that pigeon was there for, I believe, like 48 hours. And that would have been the Sunday that my father woke up fine. And Monday he was released from the hospital. And that pigeon literally dropped from his window. Once his purpose was served, that pigeon was gone, nowhere to be found. And my father literally jumped out of bed, like, I'm Gucci, I'm good. And the doctors are out here like, damn, we didn't even give him no medicine. Like, what the fuck? Like, okay, he was in a really bad case. And they were saying like, his lungs, the one thing that they were seeing was that his lungs sounded like he had a lot of water in it. So my dad was in a really bad predicament. So finally, the nurses and stuff released my father from the hospital. And yes, now if you came here because you want to know what happened to the two cousins, I'm going to teach you a little thing about magic. Magic, any type of magic that you do with light, always is followed with darkness. That's just how it works. Everything, unfortunately, just has to be balanced. Which is why I believe that Haitians, which let me know if you guys want me to do a separate video on the real tea on how the Haitians won the revolution. I know you guys know like we use voodoo, but do you know the actual depth that we use voodoo to win the revolution? And also, do you understand why Haiti is suffering so much? Not only because we were the first Black republic, and not only because we use magic to destroy them, but mainly because we use magic to destroy them, because everything light also has to come with darkness. And so you have to reap the consequences of your actions most time, which is why love spells and things like that tend to backfire, because magic does come with a price, you guys. It really does. And you can think that it doesn't, but it does. So at that crossroad, obviously, if you guys haven't picked up on it, an exchange had to be made. Now, I'm not going to implicate my family in anything on this here app, on this internet, but just know that something or someone had to give, because they had to go to Baron Samedi because he had my father's soul. My father was dead. He was as good as dead. My father was good as dead. There was nothing those doctors could have done to help my father. At all. If anything, if they had chosen to give him medicine, they would have just kickstarted his death. So they needed to get my father's soul back. And they needed to get my father back to himself. And so an eye for an eye. So everything was just reversed. So that cousin, unfortunately, is no longer with us. Rest in peace. Yeah, so now as far as the two guns go in the family, obviously my family's a little bit more powerful than them. And so they kind of understood that it backfired once, the cousin, yeah. And it's fucked up because she had a whole family in Haiti. Like, not a whole family. Kids and all. So, it was my dad or her. So that's what happened. The other two guns, since, technically they were paid to do a job, like, basically they pulled up on them and they were like, yo, chill the fuck out. You don't want to do this with us. Like, yeah. So like some of the guys from my dad's side of the family pulled up on those two guns because they knew where they were. And basically was like, I don't know if this is something that you want to continue, but like, you should check on your cousin. I mean, you should check on your sister. Check on your sister, bro. Yeah. So after that, my father's been fine, and he's been fine ever since. Yeah, if anything, I think he just needed to reinsure a protection spell, if anything. And understand that protection spells can only take you so far. Especially when, that's why sex is so powerful, because they're dealing with your soul, they're dealing with the real you. And so people can trap you through sex. People can have access to your energy through sex. People can really fuck you over by having access to your energy through sex. So guys, be aware. Your body genuinely is a temple. I can't believe I'm saying this, because if you knew me when I was young, like, that was not a sentiment that I actually shared. Y'all, I'm so hot because I had to turn off the AC to make this video. But no, seriously, you guys, like, don't fuck around and find out. I'm gonna tell y'all that much. Don't fuck around and find out. Your body is a temple. Don't give any random people access to your body to fuck with you or your energy. And also, I also found it fascinating that my aunt told me that voodoo is so powerful that it doesn't matter where you are in the world, they can send an animal after you. My aunt told me that if I wanted an enemy to have a roach manifestation, for example, they can do that. So if you live in a house that, like, now I know in New York City people have bugs, they have roaches, they have things like that, they have mice, but if you have like an infestation of like bed bugs or roaches and shit like that, or flies, like if you have an infestation of that, somebody probably sent that shit to your house. Yeah, somebody probably sent that shit to your house. Because I was also told another story about how somebody sent a roach infestation to somebody else's house. And I got to that story because I was so fascinated that they were able to send a bird from Haiti to Brooklyn. And she was like, girl, that's nothing. That's like absolutely nothing. And I was also shocked that voodoo could tell you exactly where somebody is, exactly who's doing it, and all of this, because everything comes through vision. So, yeah, guys. That was the time that my father was nearly unalived. And that was my aunt's perspective. So I told you guys my perspective. And I also told you guys my auntie's perspective. And I told you guys what happened to cousin A. Now, that's that. My father, I think he also decided to leave cousin B alone, because my father never really lasted through these women anyway. He just kind of ran through them after he got done spending his money. Anyway, I'm not gonna do him this dirty or this and that. So cool. But you guys heard my perspective. You guys also heard my aunt's perspective. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I want to say that I love you guys so much, my abducted humans. You guys are the best. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. If you ever feel unloved, just know that alien loves you. Like, I genuinely love you wherever you're watching. I love you so much. Thank you guys so much. We're at 12,000 subscribers. We're at 12,000 subscribers. You guys love me or something? I feel it. No, I feel the love. I feel it. So I want to thank you guys. Like, seriously, thank you guys so much. I have no announcements to make except for follow me on Instagram. And if this is your first time seeing my face and you're into the dark, the spooky, the mysterious stuff, you better make sure you leave me a subscribe, because I'm coming back with so many more of these stories. And hey, all 12,000 of you guys, or however many portion of you guys that watch this story, if you don't have your post notifications on, then you guys won't know when I post. And I appreciate all the people that have my post notifications on. And I'm literally about to start doing shout outs. Because in the last video, I was so shocked that the second I dropped it, literally, like, it was seconds that I dropped it, and that video already had like 7 likes. And I'm like, and like 2 comments. And I'm just like, yo, I love that dedication. It makes me feel so confident about posting. It makes me want to keep going. It makes me want to keep pushing through. So I thank you guys so, so much. Help me keep growing this channel so I can quit my job and do YouTube and TikTok full time. And also, hopefully, I get a brand deal soon. Maybe you guys can manifest it for me. Maybe you guys can help me manifest it. But like my aunt says, God is not in a rush. So maybe I shouldn't be in a rush either. So, yes. If I could leave you guys with anything, it would be kind to each other, okay? and protect yourself at all costs. If you're good with God, stay good with God. If you're good with your ancestors, stay good with your ancestors. But most importantly, there's nothing that love, faith, and a good relationship with God cannot solve. So be confident. I lost my train of thought just now, but be confident. Okay, you guys, I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys in the next video, which will hopefully be a little bit longer than this one. I love y'all.